Once upon a time, in a quiet village, there lived a man named David. David was kind, hard-working, and loved by many. He worked as a carpenter and built houses for the people in his village. He had a peaceful life, and everyone thought he was a good man. But David had a secret that no one in the village knew. David was married to 2 women, but neither of them knew about the other. His first wife, Clara, was a gentle and caring woman. They had met when they were both young. They fell in love quickly and married soon after. They lived in a small, cozy house at the edge of the village. Clara loved David deeply and trusted him with all her heart. She was happy in their marriage, and they had 2 children together, a son named Tom and a daughter named Lily. Life seemed perfect for Clara. But there was something that Clara didn't know. David, despite being a loving husband to her, had another wife, Sarah. Sarah was a woman David had met years after marrying Clara. Sarah was strong, independent, and worked as a teacher at the local school. David had met Sarah when he was repairing a roof at the school. They became friends, and soon their friendship grew into something more. They fell in love, and without telling Sarah about his marriage to Clara, David married her as well. Sarah lived in a different part of the village, in a larger house, and had no idea that David was already married to Clara. Years passed, and David continued to live his double life. He would spend weekdays with Clara and weekends with Sarah. He was careful not to let either woman find out about the other. He kept his secret by always making sure that he spent time with one wife when the other was busy. For a long time it seemed as if David could keep his secret forever. But as time went on, things started to change. David's children grew older, and they started asking more questions about their father's life. Clara and Sarah began to notice strange things, but they could never quite put their finger on what was wrong. Clara sometimes wondered why David would be away for the weekends, and Sarah occasionally asked why David didn't visit her during the weekdays. But David always had an excuse, and they trusted him. One day when David was away on a business trip, Clara decided to visit Sarah. She had heard from a friend that Sarah was hosting a school event, and she thought it might be a good opportunity to meet Sarah. Clara had heard her name before, but had never met her in person. She wanted to know more about this woman who seemed to be important to David. She told her children that she was going to visit a friend and would be back soon. Clara arrived at Sarah's house, and when Sarah opened the door, they both stood there for a moment, surprised. Clara looked at Sarah, and Sarah looked at Clara. They had never met, but there was an instant feeling of something being wrong. Clara smiled nervously and said, "Hello, I'm Clara. I'm a friend of David's wife, and I thought I'd come by and say hello." Sarah looked confused for a moment, then smiled. "I'm Sarah. I'm married to David. Is David with you?" Clara's heart stopped. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice shaking. "You're married to David?" Sarah frowned. "Yes, I've been married to David for several years. Is there something wrong?" Clara felt like the ground beneath her feet was slipping away. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. She tried to stay calm, but couldn't. "I'm his wife, too," Clara whispered. I've been married to him for years, but he never told me about you." Sarah stared at Clara, her face slowly turning pale. "What do you mean you're his wife?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "David has been married to you all this time?" Clara nodded, feeling tears fill her eyes. "Yes, he has. We have 2 children together, a son and a daughter. But I had no idea about you." The 2 women stood there in shock, unable to believe what they were hearing. The world around them seemed to stop, and the silence between them was heavy. Sarah slowly sank into a chair, feeling overwhelmed. But he said he was faithful to me. He never mentioned you." Clara shook her head, trying to understand what had happened. "I can't believe this. I trusted him with everything, and he lied to both of us." For hours the 2 women talked, exchanging stories about their lives with David. They discovered that they had been living in the same village for years, never knowing about each other. They both loved David deeply, but now they realized that their love had been built on lies. They shared their pain, their hurt, and their disbelief. Neither of them knew what to do next. Finally, Clara stood up. "We need to confront him," she said. "We need to know the truth. He can't keep lying to us." Sarah agreed, though her voice was filled with sadness. "Yes, we need to talk to him. He can't keep doing this." That evening David came home from his trip, unaware of what had happened. When he walked into the house, Clara and Sarah were waiting for him. He stopped in his tracks when he saw them both sitting together. "What is this?" David asked, looking confused. "Why are you 2 here?" Clara and Sarah stood up together, and for the first time David saw the hurt in their eyes. "David," Clara said quietly, "we know everything. We know about each other." David's face turned pale. He had never imagined that his 2 wives would find out. He tried to speak, but no words came out. His heart was pounding, and he knew that the moment of truth had come. "David," Sarah said softly, "how could you do this to us? How could you lie to both of us all these years?" David looked at them both, his heart heavy with regret. I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt either of you. I loved you both." "But you didn't love us enough to be honest," Clara said, her voice breaking. "You kept us both in the dark. You kept us from knowing the truth." David tried to explain, but the words felt empty. He had no excuse for what he had done. He had betrayed both women, and there was nothing he could say that would take away their pain. After hours of talking and crying, David realized that his life had fallen apart. Clara and Sarah couldn't forgive him, and he knew it. The 2 women left that night, each of them heartbroken, each of them feeling like a fool. David was left alone in his house, with nothing but the emptiness of his choices. From that day on, David tried to fix the mess he had made, but the damage was too great. He lost both women, and the guilt he carried was heavier than any burden he had ever known. He had once thought that he could love 2 women at the same time, but he learned the hard way that love built on lies could never last.